So if you have your Bibles with you, today we are going to the book of Psalms, Psalm 31. It's a very important psalm in the Bible, one of the most important ones. And I'll tell you later, but we're going to go into Psalm 31, verses 9 through 12, and then we're going to go to the book of John, the Gospel of John, chapter 4, verses 4 through 10. I have a very practical message for you. I think it is a very vulnerable message for me and for some of you who are going to be hearing this. When I was praying to God, what should we talk about this Sunday? The answer couldn't be more clear to me personally. We're going to go into verse 9, Psalm 31. Be merciful to me, Lord, for I am in distress. My eyes grow weak with sorrow, my soul and body with grief. My life is consumed by anguish, and my years by groaning. My strength fails because of my affliction, and my bones grow weak. Because of all my enemies, I am the utter contempt of my neighbors, and an object of dread to my closest friends. Those who see me on the street flee from me. I am forgotten as though I were dead. I have become like broken pottery. Let's go into John chapter 4, starting in verse 4. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food, and the Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with the Samaritans. And Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God, and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." I want to speak to you for a few moments tonight from my title, which is Beautifully Broken. There's beauty in our brokenness. So, quick question. How many cats does a woman need to have in order for her to be considered a crazy cat lady? This is a poll, so you can answer.
4.
Okay, 4. 4, okay. So,
I'm offended.
3.
12.
100%.
Okay, I know a lady who has 19. She works at the vet's office. To me, that is overboard. But I used to think that 3 cats is more than enough. And me personally, when I was born and raised in India, so there's not a lot of pet cats in India. That's a Western thing. And so, personally, I thought that cats were straight from the devil, and they did not belong in households, and the way they act, and all those things. But then, I got 3 cats of my own, compelled by my wife. And then I realized that I like cats more than I like dogs. And some of you have been to our house, and you know that my cats do not act like normal cats. They're very social. They're very extroverted. They like to be with you. They will follow you around. And I love these cats. And I love every cat that I see. Anytime I see a stray cat, I will stop to say hi. And it's ridiculous. 6-7 years ago, I would have thought, no way. But then, anytime I see a cat, I fall in love. I will stop and say hi. And it's now a zoo in our house. My wife is officially, in my eyes, a crazy cat lady. And I have become Mr. Crazy Cat.
Crazy cat.
Because we have 2 dogs and 4 cats. And something that I've noticed is you never see stray dogs. Almost never see stray dogs. But you always see a lot of stray cats. It's almost like people don't really care about stray cats. And a few weeks ago, I'd say about a month ago, we were at Mama's house. And there was a stray cat. This beautiful gray cat that would always lurk around, and she was abused by her owners, and the owners would never feed her. They would leave for months at a time and leave this cat outside. Cats are domesticated. People say that, they can hunt for food. Well, if it's a domesticated pet, you should feed it. But they would go for a long time, and it's in the cold, bitter winter, and how cold this winter was. we realized that this cat was not being taken care of. And every time we would stop my mom's house, I would see this cat and we would try to go and say hello, but they would run away because it was a stray cat. But this time, this cat came and sat right in front of the truck and looked right at me and did the most saddest meow I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, we need to take this cat home because she literally just said, please take me home with you. And we did. And we did. And Lauren called her name Biscuit. And there was one more experience that we had with Biscuit before we got her. Because that's how I know that this cat was not taken care of and she was probably abused. She had a snake bite the first time I saw her. A snake bite on her face. And her face was swollen and her eyes were almost completely closed and she couldn't really do anything. And I was asking myself, like, how can someone leave a little animal like that and not care for it? So we cleaned the wound, we took care of her, and so she got better. But then, after that snake bite, she had that huge scar on her face. That scar was scar tissue built up, and there was just no way for that scar to go away. It was just permanent. And I believe that a lot of people would actually just not care about a cat that has a deformity or a scar on their face. When people go to pounds and stuff, you always look for the prettiest cat that is around. You always find the cutest little kitten, small, that hasn't lived very long, a few weeks old. And people would walk by this cat because people don't like animals with scars. But it doesn't matter to us because we love that cat already. And there's a picture out here. I told Lauren to put it on the screen. That's our new cat, Biscuit. She's a sweet gray cat. And all our pets are named with the letter initial B, and she was the last one. Her name is Biscuit. Scar or not, it doesn't matter to us. But we live in a world where people hide scars, where people like to maintain the image of perfection. What happens if you break a jar at home, a decorative vase, if you break that beautiful piece of decoration and it falls on the ground, do you put those broken pieces together in the same place, or do you throw it away? We throw it away. We throw it out. To us, when things are broken, they lose all value. Broken TVs, you can't see them, you throw them away. Broken chairs, you don't use them. Do you sit on a broken chair? I don't. I don't like falling. Broken things have no value to us. In this world, broken things are thrown out. Brokenness has no value. And our culture just solidifies this same fact. If you have anything wrong with you, if not just completely perfect, if there's absolutely anything wrong with you, if people can cancel you, that people aren't going to look at you, you need to be absolutely perfect in this culture of no forgiveness that we live in, that if you are not perfect, then you are not worth looking at. If you have scars, no one's going to look at you. We like to portray this image of perfection in our lives, that everything is great. My life is great. I don't have any problems. I don't have any scars. I don't have anything broken in my life. Just so that people will accept us. Just so that people will like us. So that you would not be looked over and shunned out by other people like broken objects. If there is anything wrong with you, you better hide it, or you will not be accepted. All of our friends, when we went to college, I come from a great, loving family. But I knew plenty of people that did not. And they kept that fact hidden. All the people in college come from loving families, so if you are one of those people that don't, then you better hide the fact that you don't. If you had problems with grades, or if you had problems with making friends, if you're an introvert, if you are shy around other people, you better hide it, because you need to be around people, and if you want to be popular, you better be happy in front of people all the time and be outgoing. We can pretend that we are not broken, that everything is perfect, that our lives are great, but sooner or later the scars start to show up. They start revealing themselves. Some people are very good at hiding scars, and some people are not very good at hiding scars. Some people are terrible at it. But the fact remains that this world is full of broken people with broken hearts, with broken spirits, with broken relationships, and broken expectations. And some of us are way too familiar with brokenness. All of us have experienced brokenness. No matter how old or how young you are, life has a way of breaking us. And sometimes we can start feeling ashamed that our lives don't look as good as other people. That our families, other people's families are perfect. Their relationships are perfect. They have a great relationship with their parents. Their kids love them. But you don't know what any of that looks like. We feel ashamed because we couldn't make it in school. We couldn't make it at a job. You couldn't keep your marriage together. And you have faced so much loss, so many problems, and you don't see other people struggling with the same things that you do. Your friends don't struggle with these problems, but you find yourself bound in chains and have been trying to free yourself for years. We are familiar with brokenness. Aren't you glad that our God doesn't cast us out when we are broken? That He still calls you His masterpiece? That He still loves you no matter how broken or damaged you might be? You are still precious to Him, that He treats you like a prized possession, despite no matter how far you have been, how badly we may have hurt Him. He still brags on us like a proud father saying, "This is my boy, that is my daughter." I am so glad that our God loves to work on broken things. I mean, when Jesus was on the earth, He was a carpenter. He was a carpenter, and he would work with broken things. He would work with His hands and fix things. And I'm glad that He loves working on broken things, because I am tired of pretending that everything is okay. I am tired of putting on a happy face when on the inside I don't feel that way. When on the inside everything is telling me that you're not happy, that you are not joyful. Pretending that there's nothing wrong with you. Pretending that you are completely whole only goes so far. You can pretend that you're not broken to fool the world, but sooner or later you will get tired of living in that deception. And I don't want to pretend anymore. Because pretending that everything is okay is only going to keep me from the healing that I desperately need. It will only keep me from the one who can heal me. I cannot be healed, and I cannot move on if I don't accept the fact that I have been through trauma, and that I've had some problems in my life, that I am broken, and that I need saving. I've been a Christian all my life, yet I still need my God to come and save me. I still need Him to come and rescue me. I need Him to come bail me out. I need Him. Because I still need the potter's touch. Because this jar of clay has been through some rough times. There are times in our life when we find ourselves broken. When we did nothing to deserve it. We didn't cause that brokenness. But life has a way of breaking us. And you're tired. And things keep piling up. And your mental health is not doing well. You work hard, but you feel unappreciated. And more is required of you every single day. And you're trying to mend everyone in your life, mend everyone around you. But there's no one out there that is trying to mend you when you yourself are falling apart. People can break us. Circumstances can break us. And on the other hand, the other side of the coin is that sometimes our own choices can lead us to get to our own breaking point. Sometimes we can create our own brokenness. We were in this series for the last couple of weeks, The Fight Within. I hope you remember that there are two versions of ourselves. One that is living with sin, and one that desires holiness. And Paul says this thing is still living in me. And I don't know why I keep doing the things that I don't want to do. And not do the things that I want to do. Because sin dwells in us. And sin breaks lives. It breaks hearts. It breaks trust. It broke the relationship that we had with our Creator. Its whole job is to break you. And I have seen people make choices in the heat of the moment that they will regret for the rest of their lives because of one impulsive action. I have seen people create great success and great wealth in their lives at the cost of close relationships. That you can have all the great things that this world has to offer, but most important things that actually matter in your life, the relationships that matter in your life, they lay broken before you. And for some of us, brokenness is a reason of great shame. And what do we do with our brokenness? What is the natural reaction when we find ourselves full of brokenness and full of shame? The natural thing is to hide it. And we try to hide it because that's what we are wired to do. I don't want to look broken in front of other broken people who can hide it better than I can. Because everybody is broken in some way, but I don't want to look broken in front of somebody else, so I will try to hide it, and I will try to pretend that everything is okay in my life, and everything is okay with me. But there are people who just can't hide it. Who can't hide it and are defined by their brokenness. I grew up in India. And in the third world, in a more superstitious society, in the part of the world where people believe in false gods, I have seen how people get treated for their brokenness that they had nothing to do with, that they didn't cause. If you are born in a lower caste, in Hinduism they have this thing called the caste system. If you are born in a lower caste, it's your own fault. If you are born with any kind of disability, with any kind of facial deformity, any kind of blindness or deafness, any kind of disability, people believe that that was caused by you in your previous life, that you had something to deal with, that you made the gods angry and now you have to deal with this brokenness for the rest of your life. That is why you're broken. And they get treated with utter disrespect and contempt for something that they didn't cause, for something that they couldn't control. I mean, open your Bible and see how the lepers were treated. How they had to hide their faces. Anytime a leper came in contact with anybody else around, if they were outside of their quarantine area, they had to hide their face and say, "Unclean! I am unclean! Stay away from me! Because I am unclean." Can you imagine the shame that comes with this kind of brokenness? And then comes this Samaritan woman. John chapter 4. Jesus, the Bible tells us, had to go through Samaria to meet this one woman. She is the perfect example of someone who had a difficult life, and someone who was living in the consequences of her choices, and someone who was also living in hiding. The Bible says he had to go through Samaria. No, he didn't have to go through Samaria. Nobody wanted to go through Samaria. Because the Jews and Samaritans, these people were neighbors, and they came from the same person, but somewhere along history, the Samaritans got separated from the Jewish people, and they intermingled with other people, and the Jewish called these people half-breeds and half-bloods, and they didn't want to have anything to do with them. They didn't treat them with kindness, and the same thing, there was a conflict. The Jews didn't like the Samaritans, and the Samaritans did not like the Jews. So much to the point where if they had to go through Samaria, they would rather plan a longer journey. They would plan sometimes 2 extra days to go around Samaria so they don't have to run into a Samaritan. But Jesus walks right through for this one woman. And I don't like how certain people and a lot of preachers portray this woman's character, saying this woman was a woman with a loose character. She had 5 husbands and was living with another man. The Bible does not give us the reason why she was married to 5 different men. It does not tell us what the reason was for all those divorces, what the reason was why she kept going from men to men. No reason is given. Possibly that this woman was barren. She couldn't have kids. And in that society, in a very misogynistic society where men led everything and women had no rights, if she couldn't bear children, a man in those days had the legal right to leave the woman, to divorce her, because she cannot give him a child. Maybe she kept getting used by these men who kept breaking her. And no one wanted to restore her, but they kept using her. And every time she found herself with a new man, she was a little more broken. That's how she was treated. She was broken. She had no value in society. No one treated her with respect. No one cared for her. And it was in the middle of the day that she came. In those days, if you wanted to go to a well to get water, that was a communal activity. Nobody went alone. All the women went together in the cool of the day, either early morning or at dusk when the sun had gone down. But nobody came in the middle of the day when it was hot in Israel in that time. But she came alone because she didn't want to be judged by every other woman that was going to come. She was tired of looking at those people staring at her, pointing fingers at her, and sniggering behind her ears. That's how she was treated by other people. And possibly that's how she treated herself. She probably looked at herself as a broken person who has no hope, because when she was talking to Jesus, if you read the full account, she expresses contempt at other men, at other people, and she says, if you knew what was going on in my life, you wouldn't be talking to me. You're a Jewish man. Why are you talking to me, a woman? Why are you talking to me? No one talks to me. And a lot of times I found myself treating myself that way, looking at myself like I am broken and there's nothing to salvage. There's nothing left of value. We don't need to worry about what someone else thinks of us or how someone else treats us, what someone else calls us. Just look at how sometimes we have treated ourselves. There are those people who think too highly of themselves, and then there are those of us who know exactly who we are. We know how familiar we are with our own sin. We are too familiar with our own brokenness. Yes, the blood of Jesus covers me and covers us. But I am also aware of my actions and my thoughts and how broken I truly am. And still the decisions that I make every day that go against the sacrifice that God made for me. I know that I am restored. And I know that my sins have been washed whiter than snow. But sometimes I still feel dirty. I know that I am restored. But sometimes I still feel like damaged goods. Like broken things. Have you ever in your life looked at yourself as damaged goods? Have you ever felt that you were damaged? Did someone else treat you as if you were? In my personal experience, one time I remember as a 21-year-old, you guys know that I wanted to play soccer and I wanted to play professionally, and I wasn't able to do that. And one of my dreams failed miserably. But then someone that I deeply respected and I learned a lot of Bible from him. He was one of my mentors and teachers. And at this failure, when I had hit rock bottom and I was having a disagreement with him, and he told me that, well, you will always be a loser. You failed to accomplish this. Just because you failed this one thing, that means you will never be successful at anything. That's word for word. Someone that I deeply respected and I thought that I really wanted to make proud. Has someone broken your heart? Have you ever felt what abandonment feels like? Then you're not alone. Come meet this woman. Come meet this Samaritan woman. Have you ever felt what it feels like to trust someone, to rely on someone, like this woman, that she had to rely on her husband for everything, then to later realize that you are really on your own? Come and see this broken woman. Has your heart ever been broken by your own sin? Like her? Like David? You know the most broken David ever was in his life? And that's not even counting running away from Saul. That's not even counting living like a fugitive when his life was in danger. The most broken King David ever was when he committed that horrible crime. And he realized how big he had messed up. But there is beauty in that too. Because when you are convicted of your own sin, it is the Holy Spirit convicting you and telling you that you still need your Father. That you are not beyond repair. That He still loves you. What do we do when we feel the burden of brokenness? The temptation is to do what this woman did. Hide and avoid everyone. She came during the day because she didn't want to be seen by anyone else. And we do the same thing too. Avoid people. If it was possible, I wouldn't go to work and just stay in my room because I don't want to face people. I don't want to see people. That's what I want to do. We think that I need to stay away until I can fix my life. I need to stay away until I can fix my marriage. I need to stay away until I can beat this addiction. I just need to fix these things on my own, and then maybe I can come back to God. Maybe if I avoid it for long enough, they will forget, and I will be accepted. Maybe God will forget. We think we need to stay together, to stay away until we get our lives together. My friend, you will never truly be whole on your own. You can try to stay away from faith. You can try to stay away from the church. You can try to stay away from faith. You can try to stay away from hope. Because the last time you tried, you were only disappointed. But the good news is, the broken woman, the Samaritan woman, didn't have to go looking for Jesus. She didn't have to go to the hostile Jewish territory, because the Bible tells us that Jesus had to go to Samaria. He had to go through Samaria because he came to the hostile territory. Perfection came to this broken world. Holiness walked right into your brokenness. I told you about our new cat, Biscuit, that has a scar on her face because she was bitten by a snake. Did you know that you were also born into a snake bite? A serpent who attacked you long before you were ever here. Long before you knew what it was. And God sees the effects of sin in your life. You didn't choose to be born here. You didn't choose your family. Some of you didn't even choose your battles. But here you are, still broken. And you may call yourself scarred, and you may call yourself broken, and you may call yourself that you are nothing to look at, that there's nothing left in you anymore. But the Bible tells me Jesus had to go through Samaria. He had to take on that journey. The woman didn't go looking for Jesus. Jesus came looking for this woman. Because he will not leave you in your depression. He will not leave you alone in your anxiety. He will not leave you alone in your shame, in your guilt, in your anguish, in your stubbornness, in your sin. She didn't have to worry about finding him. He found her. She thought that no one wants to look at her. And those who would look at her would only look at her to judge her. That's why she came alone in the middle of the day. But Jesus was also crucified in the middle of the day. He took on our shame in front of everyone so that you don't have to live in shame anymore. The cross fixes your brokenness. He wants to restore you. He doesn't want to leave you broken. He will not turn you away because of your brokenness. He wants it. When you come to him, you will not walk away the same. Yeah, there's a scar on Biscuit's face and other people might not like it, but it doesn't matter to me because we already love her. Do you think that I would stop loving her because she has a scar on her that she didn't choose? If I can love a cat that I've only known for a month, how much more does your Creator love you, who created you? Do you think your brokenness is going to keep him away from loving you? Not my God. Not your God. People do that. People treat you differently for your brokenness. And those same people whose validation that you're looking for, if they really saw the condition of your heart, if they really saw what goes on in your mind, what you do alone in your own private time, if they knew all the things that you keep hidden in your heart, the secret things, if they all came out, no one will stick by your side. People will abandon you. Thank God. Our God doesn't treat us based on what the inside of our heart looks like. He hears every word you whisper in silence. He sees every horrible thing that I've ever done, but still loves us to the point where he died. The Bible tells us while we were still sinners. Thank God. Our validation doesn't depend on what we look like on the outside or what we look like on the inside. No matter how imperfect and damaged and broken we might be, our validation comes from who we belong to. And sometimes brokenness that we desperately try to avoid, sometimes brokenness is important in our lives. Because brokenness is what brings us closer to God. That brokenness, even though it is painful, has beauty in it. Because if it brings you closer to your Father, then that brokenness has a purpose. There is something about reaching your breaking point that makes you look for God and makes you consider God more seriously. It is my brokenness that reminds me that I need a Savior. It's my brokenness that invites the healer into my heart. It is my brokenness that gives God the opportunity to come and fix that is broken. The enemy also likes to use your brokenness. That's the intention. He wants to break you, thinking that brokenness will be your end. If he breaks you enough, you will stop worshiping God. If he breaks you enough, you will just give up on your faith. If he breaks you enough, you will stop reaching out to heaven, believing that if you are broken enough that you will just let go. He thinks breaking you will be the end of you, not realizing that it's your brokenness that opens the door for God to walk right in. You may see yourself as damaged goods. You may see yourself and see failure in someone who's repulsive, someone that gave up on God in life. But if you only change your perspective and see your brokenness as an opportunity for him to come and restore you and say, yeah, I might be broken, but that's exactly who Jesus came for. He came to fix what was broken. Yes, I am wounded. Yes, I am sick. It's not the healthy that he came for. He came for the sick. He came to heal me. The enemy doesn't realize that it's your brokenness. The very thing that he tries to use against you is the same thing that God will use to show his saving power. Joseph says, what you meant for evil, God will turn it around for your good. And how many more testimonies will it take for us to finally understand that it is at our breaking point when things begin to change? There's something about you not being able to mend things for you on your own. There's something about our brokenness that opens the doors to heaven's resources. So tonight I want to tell you, don't hide your brokenness. Show it to the King of Kings who can take all your pain away. Show your brokenness to the one who can comfort you, who's the only one who can comfort you. Don't hide because of it, but be bold in your brokenness, because you are more beautiful because of your brokenness. It shows your humanity. It shows your scars. It shows that you survived. You're broken, but you're still alive. The last thing I want to tell you was there's a woman right before Jesus was arrested and betrayed. He was reclining at his friend's house. The Bible tells us a woman came and broke a very expensive jar, an alabaster jar, containing very expensive perfume. And she poured it on his feet. When she broke the jar, the value of the perfume was revealed. She had to break that jar. Which tells me, sometimes it is only when you are broken you realize your true value. Only then can you begin to be used by God to fix the brokenness around you. You can't really help someone. You can't really help fix someone when you haven't gone through it yourself. The Bible tells us we don't have a high priest who was unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but one who was tempted in every way, yet did not sin. It is when I'm broken, when I realize the enemy doesn't attack something that is not valuable to God. So let's stand as we finish our service. And I told you, I will tell you why that psalm that we read was important. Psalm 31 is very important. Thank you. Because it's the same psalm that Jesus quoted from the cross. Psalm 31, verse 5 tells us, Jesus says, into your hands I commit my spirit. It is in our brokenness that we realize that God is with us. So I want us to remember that there's beauty in our brokenness. Yeah, you might not see it right now. You may not be able to see it right now. But I believe that if you keep pushing, if you can see past the brokenness, if you can see past all the broken pieces that are laying before you, one day you will look at God, who will have a smile on his face, with a paintbrush in his hand, and he will reveal to you the masterpiece he's just created. Through all the problems that you saw in your life, he was creating something beautiful. He was creating his masterpiece. You just have to hold on and see past the brokenness. Because I might be broken, but God can make beauty from ashes. I might be broken, and I might not look attractive to anyone. There's no beauty. There might not be any beauty according to the standards of the world. But God calls us beautiful, and that's all that matters.